Hello, everyone. Welcome to BOA Today. What a great episode we have for you today, taking you behind the scenes at all things happening at Bands of America Regionals this season. My name is Tim Hinton. I'm the host of the Marching Roundtable podcast and the creator of Marching Arts Education. Thank you so much for being here.
On this episode, we hear how a college and high school band combined at a Friday night football game, and then each performed the next day at a BOA regional. We also take you behind the scenes at the Tournament of Roses parade with the Bands of America Honor Band, plus in an interview with students at a BOA regional. All on BOA Today.
The Marching Roundtable presents BOA Today, a special podcast created to take you behind the scenes and up close to the great performances, interesting stories, and fascinating people that make Bands of America so exciting. The Marching Roundtable is proud to be an official media partner of Music for All. This podcast series is sponsored by Fred J. Miller Incorporated, found at fjminc.com/roundtable.
Up first, we hear from two students who performed at the Las Cruces Regional this season.
My name is DJ Zaletto.
And my name's Elena Velasquez.
Clovis High School.
I love band because even whenever I'm stressed out, I can go there just to find peace and comfort because it's like a big family and you can trust everyone.
Band is an amazing place. You get to meet all these new friends, make new bonds, and it's just a safe environment. One person that's really important in my music career is Mr. Juan De Leon. He goes to NMSU and he's cool. The fact that he always pushed us and knew that we always got it, and yeah.
One person that really helped me stay in band and, stay with all the music is Miss Melissa Rice. She was my middle school band director, and she did a lot for us. That was one person I could trust with everything, and I could open up to her about everything. And she pushed me nonstop to make sure I was doing better. And she made sure that I was in marching band. She was not going to let me quit. So that's one person that really helped me.
Up next, we meet Trae Blanco, who shares memories back when he was a student who performed with the Bands of America Honor Band at the Tournament of Roses parade.
Again, thanks for having me. My name is Trae Blanco. I am the Director of Bands beginning this fall at Butler University in Indianapolis in the School of Music. Prior to that, I've served on the faculty at Murray State University and the University of Southern Maine, both in the same capacity as Director of Bands, where I've conducted concert bands and taught courses in undergraduate music education and conducting. I'm also on the faculty in the summer at Blue Lake Fine Arts Camp, where I conduct a high school group each summer in session 1. And this summer, we'll be joining them as the principal conductor for the Falcone Tuba Euphonium International Competition. After I graduated, actually, from high school, that first summer I was out, I was on the staff, the college staff called the Impact Team for the Drum Major Academy. And going into that summer, I remember getting an email from Heidi Sarver and George, Mr. Parks, and them telling me, hey, this summer at all the regional events, we are going to be doing sort of auditions for the Bands of America Tournament of Roses Parade Band. They're putting together this band. It's an audition-based thing. The drum majors will be selected from people that audition and make the band. So step number 1, you have to provide a really good, you have to do that well. There was one exception to that rule. The person who won the final march off at BOA Summer Symposium didn't have to make it. They just had to win the march off, which is a feat in and of itself. So in any case, so they said, you got to audition and make the band. And then if you get in, you can audition the summer to be one of the drum majors. So I was set. So, I mean, that just sounded like a pretty awesome opportunity. And even though I was going to be a freshman in college, that was sort of like the age out limit. You could audition as apply as a senior in high school, and then it was going to happen the next year. So that's kind of how all that came together. So I went through that process. At the end of the Greeley camp, everyone went away, and I got a call from Scott McCormick, which I'll never forget. I might even still have that voicemail. I'm sort of notorious for saving really important voicemails in my Google Drive. So I got a phone call from Mr. McCormick, and Scott said, Trae, this is Scott McCormick calling from Bands of America. How are you? And I'm like, doing fine. Thanks for the phone call. I really didn't know what was happening. And he said, we're calling. I have on the phone with me. I don't remember who was all on the phone. I think Mr. Parks was on the phone. I just can't remember. He said, we're calling to let you know that we'd like to extend an invitation for you to be one of the 5 drum majors for the TOR BOA band. Is that something you still would like to do? And I mean, it was like I mean, a no-brainer, duh, of course. And so that experience was sort of my next, as a performer role, I was in a high school band that attended a regional event, but this was sort of my first big moment being a part of a BOA event that I felt like from the ground up. We spent a week together in Pasadena. I got to meet some incredible staff, which I'll talk a little bit about in a minute. But that experience in itself was pretty. I mean, positively life-changing experience, right? I mean, that's the tagline. That was a game changer for me. The Rose Bowl parade is not. There's no practice route. You get there. So I remember our alarms going off at like awful 3 something horrible in the morning, and we had to be on the bus, and we got like some snack lunches, and I just remember being like still kind of foggy, not like there wasn't a ton of energy in that process because everyone was just so tired, a bunch of high school students ready to just go back to bed. But when we got to the event, we got pull uniform out, get it on, and get off the bus, and it was still about dark 30, and I remember waiting on this off ramp like you do, right? I mean, it's almost essentially just get off the interstate and there's off ramps that are shut down, and the band started lining up, and we were trying to stay warm, and we had on black plastic trash bags because it was like kind of insulated, kind of like you would if you were doing a weight loss or like trying to work. So we're wearing these, and then I remember when it was time, the staff and the drum majors just started walking the ends of the lines and taking bags from people. And then it was like walk around a corner, step the ends, go. And it was sort of nonstop from there. I mean, that is a long parade. For anybody that's done that parade, they know that it is lengthy. And so we had done a lot of practice for that. But once we stepped off, there was little to no stopping time. Just before the turn, a float got stuck. So we got stuck at the turn for a little bit. But other than that, I mean, it was making that turn is something else. And it was really special for me too. Like I said, my parents came out, and like many band kids, my parents came to everything. My mom was involved with everything. My dad helped in every parade, and my sister was always there, just sort of cheering on. And so my parents drove out to California from New Mexico and spent a few days there. And a really good friend of ours came out. So when we made the turn, and there's huge grandstands on the right, that was really cool. And I was excited to see that and all the cameras and stuff. But just past the first big grandstands on the left, I knew where my parents were. And so it was really special to see them and to know that they were there and to have that experience with them. And like I said, they've been at pretty much everything I've done over the years like that. And so that experience, I know for a lot of students that were in the parade as well, whose parents were there, they kind of all sat in the same sort of area. You were able to buy tickets with BOA for this sort of like band family area. And so that turning the corner was really special. And I mean, there's nothing like it. I mean, there's nothing like seeing people's tents, camping tents. It's public sidewalk, so people will camp out overnight, just anywhere they can find space, and they just wake up in the morning and come out, and there they are. And so making those sorts of that turn and seeing all those people and that excitement, and just for a parade, I mean, it sounds like just a parade, but it certainly was a whole lot more, and the atmosphere certainly spoke for itself.
The Youngstown State University Band joined the Loveland High School Band at their Friday night football game, and then both groups performed the next day at a BOA regional. Hear this story next, after this brief sponsor message.
Hi, my name is Geoffrey Miller. I'm the Director of Bands here at Loveland High School, as well as the Pep Band Director at Xavier University.
I am Kate Ferguson. I'm the Director of Athletic Bands at Youngstown State University. I do athletic bands, marching band, pep band, music ed, conducting, all the things. The Youngstown State marching band was intended to go on a trip that weekend because the football team was playing University of Kentucky in Lexington. And so we decided to make a little weekend adventure of it and wanted to add a few more performances and, get out and about a little bit. So we were looking for a place to play and perform and a group to interact with on Friday night. We were leaving our campus about midday on Friday, and so we were wanting to participate in some sort of high school adventure on Friday night. And then we were, spending the night and then going to our football game at the University of Kentucky on Saturday. And then I had scheduled a performance for the BOA regional at Obetz on Saturday night, knowing that we were going to be in the same vicinity, and it was not easy, but easy to get to and relatively easy considering everything else. So I was just like, let's make a weekend of it and get some performances and get some meet and greets and just get out and about. So that's kind of where it started.
It was so random. I just got a text message from a number that I had never seen before and said, I got your contact information from a friend of yours. Would you be interested in a college band coming to your football game? And I was flattered. Yeah, sure. This sounds great. And would love to, have my students exposed to collegiate music. Let me ask my principal, my superintendent, the athletic director, and, jump through all these hoops and let's make this happen. And everybody on this side was so on board. Everybody was a little flabbergasted and caught off guard, but we were really, really excited to have them, and it ended up being a really special night for my students. So.
We had intended to leave our campus in the middle of the afternoon and then get down to a football game in the Cincinnati-ish area, which is where that all came up. And we just wanted to be a part of something, whether that was, sit in the stands and play, or maybe do a post-game show, or, watch them perform. It was important for me that I got my students out and about to see other people and other bands and interact with everybody. And I know that at the university level, a lot of times people think that, students are coming from all over the place, which is sometimes the case, but a lot of times they're still from right around that general area. And the fact that we even went into, the Cincinnati area of Ohio and then over the river into Kentucky, some of our students had never been out of the state before or anything. And so we were excited to be on that adventure, and it just wanted to take us into a different realm that we hadn't been to. And so that's kind of where that was. And Jeff and I were like, whatever happens, happens. If we play during halftime, fine. If we play during postgame, fine. We want to sit in the stands and hang out, fine. And it just so happened that we got there right as halftime was happening because of a little bus mishap. And so we got there just as halftime was happening. And I'll tell you, we jumped right off those buses and ran right onto the field and did our thing for part of halftime. And then we hung out in the stands and played with them and just were a part of we made one big giant band for the rest of the game. And it was a great time. Our students had a great time, at least.
We were talking about having them perform first, or we perform first, or do we do it as a post-game show and whatnot? And so the original plan was for Youngstown to go first and then for us to follow, which would have been terrible for us to try to, follow their performance. But it ended up working out that they showed up, and our football field is on the top of a hill too. So they got off the bus and they literally had to run up a hill right onto the field. Like, athletic director had all the gates and all the fans parted. And here's all these Youngstown kids running up while we're coming off the field, and they're running right on the field. And so, yeah, they finished halftime, and we even had a couple minutes to spare. It was great. So I'm like literally shaking Kate's hand on the football field, like, hi, nice to meet you in person. Can't wait to see your show. And so it was really like a mad rush, but our kids ended up handling it really, really well. They sounded great. And all of the football fans loved it. And then we went over to our stands. We have a stands behind the end zone. And so it was just like a giant mob of kids. And they looked over our shoulders on flip books, and we knew some of their tunes. And so we were able to play as much as we could for the last 2 quarters. And it was great. Sometimes our home stands complain that they can't hear us all the time. And they had no problem hearing us when Youngstown was with us, for sure. We had a giant sound, and it was really, really fun.
It was just really nice to, especially, I don't want to keep referring to post-COVID forever because we need to move on from that. However, so many of these students have never been necessarily on a little band trip or stayed in a hotel with the band or done any of those things. And so part of the reasoning behind all this was to just kind of reinstate some of that. And also, they've never been in situations where they were necessarily performing with another ensemble. You know, we host high school bands at Youngstown State all the time. I mean, it's a very common thing that we do, but we don't ever have the opportunity, well, we're trying to make the opportunity to go and be on somebody else's turf and do somebody else's situation. And us being the ones looking over their shoulders on their flip folders and seeing, you know, what music are you playing? And let's just jump in. And what kind of traditions do you have? Instead of sharing all of our stuff, it was nice to be a part of somebody else's, you know, stuff and traditions and music and all of those kind of things. And specifically, I mean, oh my gosh, I mean, the kids were so excited. They talked about kids. They're not kids, they're college students, but they're still my kids. But they've talked about it, I mean, every day since we've left. They've talked about how cool the Loveland kids are, and they just want to be a part of it all, and they're so excited. I know specifically the color guard students had such a great time, and I know that, you know, all the wind players, the percussionists, and everybody were all playing together, but the color guard students kind of went off in a quarter, and they were sharing, you know, just different moves and tricks and work and everything with each other for a while. And they were so excited to learn some new things from their students. And I mean, they've talked about it incessantly since then. And we're just excited to be a part of the experience.
You know, I think it's really important that high school programs kind of think of themselves as feeder programs to collegiate music. And nowadays, more than ever, I think students are really intimidated to sign up for that extra activity when they go to college. They think their program is going to be extremely time consuming, and they know that college is going to be more of a time demand than it was in high school, and they all cut music out as soon as they get there because of that. And I think it's really important for them to see that they're normal people in these, well, somewhat normal people in these high school bands, that they're just as strange as they are and just as fun and have these quirky personalities and have the same schedules as they will. And so this is the best way. I mean, they came to them. So now all of my students can see how approachable college marching band could be when they think it's going to be this rigorous schedule, like competitive marching band can be, when, you know, they're seeing all these kids that are finding time in all the different degree programs and finding a way to have music in their life in college. I think that's really important.
Well, and I would echo that to say, you know, we have a significant number of music majors in marching band at Youngstown, but we also have, I mean, the bulk of everybody, they're not music majors, and they're in band because they loved band when they were in high school, and they had a great experience when they were in high school, and they just want to keep going, and they want to keep doing that. And for many of the students, you know, this is not relaxed time. We don't relax, but, you know, this is their hobby. This is their time that they're, you know, not focused on their engineering degree or their forensic science degree or their nursing degree or whatever. This is the stuff that they do so that they can have fun. And I think it's important that we remember that, you know, there's a combination of those things, you know, and in university level marching bands, it's a combination very often of being able to provide that space for students to have fun and relax and do those things, activity that they're doing, but also a responsibility to the music majors to make sure that, you know, we're giving them an experience that they can take with them and learn from, to make sure that they are prepared to go out and have their own marching bands and have their own band programs. I try to encourage, as we're getting used to college marching band anywhere, I believe it's anywhere, not just Youngstown State. I believe it's so important for all students to be able to come in and be a part of that ensemble. You know, as a high school director, I always encourage the 8th graders to come in and just try it. Just try it for a little while, see how they feel. They would make new friends. They would be comfortable in their space before high school started, even in the fall. And the same thing happens in the college atmosphere. You know, you're going to get in there and you make new friends. You have a lay of the land. You have, you know, people that you know from all different majors and all different grade levels before you even start classes in the fall. And so, you know, it's really kind of creating a family, just like it's very similar. I mean, high school marching band and college marching band in those aspects are very similar. You're creating a family and you're with that family all the time. And when students need help with homework, they have people to ask, or they need help finding their class, they have people to ask. I mean, it's all just this normal stuff, and you've created a family and you want to be a part of that family. I mean, I felt that way as a freshman undergrad music ed major. You know, I felt that same way. I moved into campus and I made friends in marching band that are some of my best friends now still today. And you make those friends and you continue pretty much a lifelong journey a lot of times with those people. And I think that's one of the coolest parts about college marching band. And I know it's a lot of times people think it's very different than high school, and they're nervous or afraid or intimidated or things like that. And from my experiences, it's just not that way. And I feel like it's important that students just dive in and be a part of the group, because it helps create a great family for them.
Yeah, and from my approach, it's sort of like we invest all of this time working, and the students work so hard for their years in high school, and like, where's my left foot supposed to be? And this is a year-long quest, right? And then we get into that year 2, and we're like, all right, I'm going to be, contributing to the sound palette so much more this year. And finally, your senior year, you get your solo in tune, and you're the section leader, and you've invested all this time for you to then put that instrument back in its case and let it get dusty and never pick it up again. Is just such a waste. That's such an investment for 4 years to then just throw it away, most likely because student is intimidated to join their collegiate marching band. And that's just such a shame. As a director, we invest so much. Like, no, it's F sharp. It's this one. And for them to then never do it again after high school is, such a letdown. We've poured so much into their cup. For them to just not ever touch it again is such a shame. And so I'm willing to bend over backwards and do whatever I can. Fortunately, this opportunity just fell in my lap. But anything I can to keep a student in music beyond high school, I think is just incredible. I think a lot of kids go into college thinking, oh, well, I'll befriend people in my major and things like that. When I was getting my grad degree, there were kids that, they were double majors in mathematics and engineering and things like this, but their best friends were the ones that they had in marching band. They still found time as a dual major to find band in their life, and that was where their social environment was. It wasn't through their degree program, because the degree program is spent studying and reading, and you have all that work you need to do and go into those labs. That's not time to hang out and ask how your weekend was and really get to know someone. That's the time to be working. It's when we go to the marching band and going to those games and in the stands when you're going to find your friends, or riding a bus ride across Ohio to Kentucky. That's when you're going to make those relationships and friendships. And so I think it's just really, really valuable for high school kids to see that this opportunity is achievable and something that they can have in their life after their 4 years here in high school. It was such a good coincidence that Youngstown State was on exhibition at OBETS, which we were competing at the next day as well. And so we had a huge fan section in the stands, and they did too, because we had just met that night before. And I think that's a pretty cool coincidence, absolute coincidence. So.
Yeah, well, and we were excited. Again, it just so happened when I approached BOA about their opportunities or, for exhibition performances. And it just so happened that the OBETS regional was on the same day that we were going to be traveling. And so that was also coincidental, and it worked out really well. And then when we found you guys, it was great.
I know we've told this whole story without the lens of Bands of America, but it is kind of Bands of America that brought this together, and it like ties the bow on this whole story, is that we both believe in Bands of America and what that can do for marching bands, and know that it's the best quality product out there. And that's why we both were attending the same performance that Saturday, which is a nice bow to wrap that whole thing up with.
Yes, for sure.
Watch for BOA Today every Wednesday this season from the Marching Roundtable. We take you behind the scenes and up close to the great performances, interesting stories, and fascinating people that make Bands of America so exciting. If you have a story about your band family that you would like us to share, please contact Tim via email at tim@marchingroundtable.com or fill out the contact form at marchingroundtable.com.
Marching Arts Education and the Marching Roundtable are proud strategic partners of Music for All. The Bands of America Championships, presented by Yamaha, are a program of Music for All. Music for All's mission is to create, provide, and expand positively life-changing experiences through music for all. For more resources for educators and boosters, please visit advocacy.musicforall.org.